Hey there, my name is Kaylee, and when I was 15 years old, my life totally transformed. I was a really happy kid. I loved roller skating and anything to do with fashion. It was my deepest wish to someday become a fashion designer. I bought tons of magazines and cut out pictures of designer clothes to stick all over my room. Before I continue my story, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell too if you don't want to miss out on any more exciting stories. I had to stick pictures of clothes on the walls because I'd never be able to afford them. I lived alone with my mom and we didn't have much money. She was a nurse and my dad left us when I was about 5 years old. I haven't seen him since and he doesn't check up on me at all. The last I heard of him is that he moved to Spain with his new wife. I mean, that shouldn't bother me as much though because I had a really good relationship with my mom. She was fun and she was never bossy or annoying. She let me do whatever I wanted most of the time, but money was tight. I wasn't even sure how we'd pay for college, but I just remained hopeful that things would work out anyway. I went to a good high school, but I didn't really have many friends there. My friends were all part of my roller skating club, and every day after school, we'd go to the skate park. There was Carly, Stephanie, Bridget, and Madison.
Kylie, your skate is missing a wheel!
Bridget screamed while I was spinning around happily and trying out a new routine. I stopped abruptly and ended up falling over straight onto my head.
It was just a prank!
They all laughed. That is such a lame prank. I'll get you all back, don't worry, I shouted while getting up. My friends were like this most of the times, always playing lousy pranks. The next day, we decided to go to the mall after skating. We went to the food court and while I was chomping on the most delicious burrito in existence, Stephanie came up to me with a cute pink bottle.
Check out this amazing lotion sample I got from a nice lady. She gave it to me for free. It smells wonderful.
Without a second thought, I grabbed it and I poured some all over my hands. It was ketchup. Everyone laughed at me and Stephanie took a picture. Ugh, I'm so sick of you guys, I laughed. I wondered if we'd ever grow up or if we'd continue behaving like silly little kids forever. I had to walk home looking like a murder victim with ketchup all over my clothes. Anyway, this was how it went for weeks, so I didn't think much of what happened next. I was sitting at my computer browsing through the latest fashion trends one night, and my cell phone began ringing. I looked at it and there was a strange-looking number that I didn't recognize. I decided not to pick it up, but the person kept calling back for a whole 30 minutes. I was eventually so annoyed that I just picked up. Hello, I said.
What's the bank account number?
A deep voice replied. What? I said.
The bank account number so I can wire the money.
He replied harshly. Ugh, it's these stupid girls playing pranks again, I thought. Hold on, I need to check. I don't know it by heart, I said. I don't know why, but I found my bank account information and told whoever was on the other line.
Expect the deposit sometime next week,
he said and then hung up. Later that week, when I saw my friends again, I let them know that I found their latest prank completely idiotic.
But we didn't do that. Where would we even find an old guy to call you about money anyway? We don't talk to old men,
Bridget said. They all looked serious, but I figured that could have been a part of their prank too. 1 week later, I saw the mysterious number trying to call again. I picked up immediately. Would you guys quit it already? I said.
Check your bank account to see if you've received the deposit,
he said and hung up. I sighed and I went back to what I was doing, but then later, I thought I'd check my balance anyway. Mom, how do I check my online banking again? I screamed. My mom came upstairs to my room and we logged onto my bank account. Then, we sat there frozen in shock. My mom gasped.
It's showing that you have a balance of over $4 million. How is that possible?
She asked. I said.
I've got to call the bank. This must be an error.
She said. Mom, no, don't call them, I said. Then I told her the whole story about the man.
Okay, well, that is very weird. Let's wait about a week to see if it's a mistake.
Then what will we do after that week? I asked.
We will see.
Well, a week passed and the money was still there. I tried to call back the mysterious number, but it seemed like it had been disconnected.
Well, I guess you're rich now,
my mom said. We're rich, I squealed.
What should we do first?
She asked. Why don't you quit your job? You've been working too hard, I said. She laughed. The next day, when I returned from school, my mom was home and she had a huge smile on her face.
Kylie, come here. There's someone I'd like you to meet.
I walked into our living room and saw a well-dressed, middle-aged man standing there.
This is John, our new butler.
She smiled. Hi, John. It's nice to meet you.
It's lovely to meet you too. I'm making your favorite food for dinner.
John was great. He cooked, he cleaned the house, and organized everything. But I felt that there was so much more we could do with our new fortune. Mom, I said later that night, I think we should sit down and make a plan.
We can get a new house. We can do so many things. Let's start writing.
We didn't get very far with our list. We just ended up talking about all the ways we could spend my new fortune. The next day, I skipped school to go house shopping with my mom. She hired a real estate agent and we drove to the wealthiest neighborhood in our area. This is it, I said. I was hardly able to contain my excitement. We had just toured the most magnificent mansion ever. It had 10 bedrooms, 12 bathrooms, 3 living rooms, a massive dining room, a cinema, games room, and lots of other random rooms I could transform into whatever I wanted. The best part was that the backyard was so huge that I could build my own roller skating rink. Maybe I could even start my own club. I was so excited. We closed the deal the same day and moved in by the end of the week. We had to hire more staff though. There was no way we could take care of the property ourselves. We hired a cook, 3 maids, and we kept our butler John for smaller tasks. He didn't do much, but I figured we had enough money to pay him, so why not keep him? My new room was almost bigger than our old house. Everything was so luxurious. I had a diamond chandelier, my furniture was gold-plated, and my view was fantastic. My favorite part was the walk-in closet, which I could literally skate in. The only problem was that it was empty. I've got to fill this up, I thought. I went to the mall and I bought all the clothes and all the shoes that I wanted. I felt so relieved. I'd usually walk past these stores wondering if I'd ever be able to afford anything in there. And now I had enough money to buy the entire store. I think I spent that whole day shopping. I didn't even bother to try the clothes and the shoes on. If I wasn't sure, I'd buy 2 sizes just in case. The butler helped me carry everything to our luxury car, which was waiting outside. When I got home, I filled up my closet and danced around happily. Wow, I'll never have to cut pictures out of magazines again! I'll have everything right here, I thought. Then I decided I should treat my friends. I called them all and I told them to meet me at the most expensive restaurant in town.
This is another prank, right?
Bridget asked. No, it isn't. I'll tell you about everything that happened when I see you guys, I said, and then I hung up. That night, they all showed up.
You're really gonna buy us dinner here?
Stephanie said. Yep. Now let's go inside, I said. We had a magnificent 3-course dinner and I decided to tell them what happened while we were eating desserts.
$4 billion just like that?
Madison asked. Yeah, I thought it was a prank by you girls, but it turns out it wasn't. And I still have no idea where it came from, I said.
Well, what are you planning to do with it?
Stephanie asked. I told them about my plans. I wanted to start my own fashion business and drop out of school. I also wanted to build my own skate rink.
Sounds amazing,
she said. Yes, and I'd like you guys to run it. They've already started working on it, and when it's done, I'll name it after us. We're gonna have so much fun, I said. They all looked so excited. Oh, and I also got some presents for you guys, I said. I called John and he brought their gifts. The latest iPhone for each of my friends and the most expensive roller skates.
Oh my gosh,
you shouldn't have!
They squealed. It made me feel very happy to bring so much joy to my friends. Life continued to improve drastically for me and my mom. She quit her job and decided that she'd just like to relax for a while. She looked brighter, happier, and much calmer. So I decided to approach her with my ideas. Mom, I want to drop out of school to work on my fashion career.
What if it doesn't work out? You're only 15. How will you manage all of that?
It will work out. Maybe we can hire an agent to help me. It makes no sense finishing school and going to college if I already have all I need here.
Okay, fine. Do what you want,
she said while gulping down another glass of wine. But she looked very uncertain. I wasn't sure why. I also want my friends to help me run the roller skating rink we're building in the backyard.
Fine, dear. It's your money anyway.
I instantly went online and ordered a whole bunch of materials I need for my studio. I spent the next few days designing my studio and looking for a suitable agent to help me build my career. A few months later, and everything was set up smoothly. I'd already started promoting my brand of clothes and even had a few sales. The roller skating rink was finished. We hired people to take care of it during the day, and on afternoons and weekends, my friends took over. We made a good bit of money from that, which I was able to share with them. My mom used to disappear during the day, though. I knew she was somewhere in the mansion, but I wasn't sure where. Then, one afternoon, as I went downstairs to find something to do because I was tired of designing, I heard a shuffle in the pantry. Oh no, I hope I don't have rats, I thought. I opened the pantry and found my mom in there with the butler. They were kissing. She looked at me and froze.
I can explain. He's really my boyfriend, and he didn't have a job, so I just pretended he was the butler. Please forgive me for not telling you sooner.
Mom, ew. Whatever, it's your life, I said and ran back upstairs trying to forget what I had just seen. That explained why she was so happy lately. Anyway, I continued to grow in fame, and before I knew it, I was on the cover of magazines, and people were even writing books about me. I swear, I pinched myself a few times a day trying to check whether or not I was actually in a dream. Then one night, I heard my phone ringing and recognized the same strange number. I picked it up immediately.
Listen, there's been a mistake. I'm at your house. Open the front door,
he said and hung up. I ran downstairs and told my mom what happened. We decided to open the door. A very tall, heavily built man in a tuxedo was standing there. He let himself in.
The money. I need it all back, or I'm going to be seriously hurt.
What? But you gave it to us, then disappeared. How can you ask us to return it now?
My mom said, shocked.
I can't tell you everything, but I work for some very bad people. They don't make their money doing anything good or honest. My boss asked me to wire some money, and he gave me a bank account number, but it turns out that I read one number incorrectly. I sent it to you by accident, and the original recipient is very angry.
I sat down because I was too disappointed to stand. I thought for a while. Listen, do you like working for these people? I asked.
Not really.
Do they know you made this mistake? I asked.
They will know very soon, and if I can't return the money, I'm done for.
Well then, I have an idea. I can sell this house and everything in it. We'll each take a third of the money, leave the country, change our identities, and start over. I've always wanted to go to Switzerland anyway.
That doesn't seem like a bad idea.
My mom took a bit of persuading, but she eventually came around. We sold everything, and one day, we just disappeared into thin air. Me, my mom, and my new stepfather, John. I felt sad that I never got to explain what happened to my friends and that I never said goodbye, but I hope that one day I will be able to make it up to them. We live in a big, comfortable house in the Alps now. I can't tell you my new name because I'm trying not to be discovered. I went back to school and I tried to pretend that I'm an ordinary teenager, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to start my fashion business again when I leave.
I inched towards the opening of the cave and cautiously peeked out. As footsteps and voices approached, I held my breath as I pressed myself into the dampness of the cave.
I think she ran into this one.
He stood at the entrance of the cave and peered into its shadows.
Hey, there he goes!
Another voice shouted a little way off. As the footsteps ran away from the cave, I sank to the cave floor to catch my breath. Hi, my name is Vanessa. Before I continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Tap that notification bell so you know when we post more bizarre stories like mine. As far back as I could remember, my father was always a con man, from selling fake jewelry, other people's cars, and even expired goods. One time, he even sold a house and land that wasn't even his. His boss went away for a few weeks, and when we returned, another family was living in his house. By that time, Dad and I had new identities and were living in another country. I never knew my mom, and he was the only family that I knew about. I stayed with him until I was 20. After I struck a record deal and became a famous singer, I moved from Dad's house even though I stayed in the same country. From time to time, I would send money to Dad, hoping he would refrain from scamming others. But I guess you can't teach an old dog new tricks. For my 21st birthday, Dad wanted to take me to dinner. I rescheduled all my plans for that day and decided to take Dad up on his offer. I must admit, I was impressed by Dad. He pulled in a limo and wore a suit and tie. The restaurant was elegant and the service exceptional. He even had a professional photographer to take our pictures of that night. After dinner, Dad looked at me.
What would you like to do? The night is yours.
Well, I've always wanted to go to Coney Island.
Coney Island it is.
When we arrived at Coney Island, we got strange looks because of our dress code, but Dad and I didn't care. We rode every ride that night and ate from every food stall. That was one of the best nights of my life. When Dad dropped me home, I looked at him. Would you like to come in for a bit?
I have an early morning tomorrow. I'm working on a new business venture.
He pulled me close.
Happy birthday, Angel.
Thanks for a great night, Dad.
You're welcome, baby.
I pulled away and walked to my door and gave Dad one more wave before entering the house. About 3 months later, I started getting threatening calls and emails. After a show one night, a man approached me and demanded that I go out on the date he paid for. My bodyguards quickly got rid of him and I stood confused, just for a second. Then I put 2 and 2 together. The next day, I paid Dad a visit. He lived in a valley that was heavily forested on either side, with caves that adorned the mountainside. Dad always chose an area where he could easily disappear if necessary. I pounded the door. Dad, open up! Now! Dad opened the door slightly, and I pushed against it and barged inside. Dad stumbled backwards.
Vanessa, darling, what are you doing here?
Don't Vanessa darling me, Dad. What did you do? I stormed straight to Dad's office and began to dig through his files on the table. There I found a newspaper clipping of the ad he posted and pictures of myself from my birthday. The ad read, "Famous singer Vanessa Lee is looking for a husband. Once successful, you'll be given a $100,000 monthly stipend. You must pay to book an appointment for a date. This is to ensure that you are serious about not only dating Miss Lee, but becoming her husband. Cost of date, $1,000. What is this? I shoved the paper in his face angrily. Is this the business venture that you were eager to get back to after you dropped me off on my birthday? Abruptly, the lights went out, followed by the sound of shattering glass.
Follow me,
Dad whispered. I followed Dad outside and through a dirt path through the trees. We hurried through the trees. The smell of sea breeze filled my nostrils and we soon came upon a bay.
Over there's the yacht. Let's go.
Dad grabbed my hand. 3 loud explosions rang in the air. My chest tightened and my heartbeat quickened. When we got to the yacht, Dad instructed me to stay down until he said it was okay. A few seconds later, I heard the engine come to life and we began to move. I was trembling when Dad extended his hand to help me up 5 minutes later.
Sorry that you got mixed up in this, kiddo.
Are you really, though? I walked away from Dad, and he didn't speak with me until we got to our destination. We stopped close to a bay with hanging trees. We jumped out and pulled the yacht into the branches before wading out of the water. I followed Dad until we came to steep moss-filled steps covered with vines. At the top stood a vine-covered ancient stone structure that looked like something out of a horror movie. Are you sure this thing isn't cursed? I asked, as I followed closely behind Dad.
Come on, we're almost there.
Dad laughed. By the time we got to the top of the stairs, we were both breathing heavily. Just as Dad was about to unlock the huge doors, with a medallion that he removed from around his neck, a helicopter appeared and men lowered from ropes held large guns.
Run!
Dad shouted. We bolted around the stone structure and through the trees. After a few minutes, the only sounds I heard were of my ragged breathing and the branches and leaves that crunched beneath my feet. Through the trees, I saw the opening of a cave. I hurried towards the cave. A few seconds after I entered the cave, I heard something. I inched towards the opening of the cave and cautiously peeked out. As footsteps and voices approached, I held my breath as I pressed myself into the dampness of the cave.
I think she ran into this one.
He stood at the entrance of the cave and peered into its shadows.
Hey, there he goes!
Another voice shouted a little way off. As the footsteps ran away from the cave, I sank to the cave floor to catch my breath. Through the chaos outside, I heard my father's voice. I slithered out of the cave, and as close to the men that I dared to get without being seen.
The boss said to take him to the camp until tomorrow.
I watched as they dragged my father through the thicket of the trees. I retreated to the cave and waited until nightfall to make my move. I moved stealthily between the trees and hid behind the bushes closest to the camp. There was one tent in the middle of the camp. I didn't see my father outside, so I figured that he was being held captive inside the tent. I patiently waited until all the men were asleep before tiptoeing between them sneakily. When I got into the tent, I saw my father tied to a pole. One of his eyes was swollen shut. I ran towards him and kneeled in front of him. "Don't worry, Dad. I'll get you out," I whispered, as my fingers clumsily tried to loosen his ropes.
Are you sure about that?
A female voice asked behind me. My heart sank as 2 men and 1 woman stood looking on at me. I looked at Dad apologetically.
Tie her up, boys. I guess they'll both be swimming with the fishes tomorrow.
Dad and I shared a worried look. I was tied to my father, and there we remained until the morning. I opened my eyes slowly. My body ached as I tried to remember where I was. All at once, flashbacks of yesterday played in my mind. "Dad, are you awake?"
Yes.
"Dad, we need to find a way out of here." Just then, the woman opened the tent and looked at me.
Change of plans, doll. The boss is going to marry you.
The woman cackled, then stepped out of the tent.
Vanessa, I'm so sorry.
"Dad, now is not the time. We need to find a way out." Dad and I both struggled against our ropes, but to no avail. I'm not sure how long it was before the woman entered with 2 men. They cut our ropes and pulled us to our feet.
Can I at least say something to my daughter?
Dad looked at me, tears streaming down his face.
Fine,
The woman said.
but make it quick.
I'm so sorry that this has happened. I've never been much of a father.
He held my hands.
Can you ever forgive a silly old man?
I looked at him. He nodded slightly. "Of course I forgive you." I wasn't prepared for what happened next. Dad grabbed his chest and sank to his knees. "Dad! Dad!" I cried. The 2 men pushed me away and the woman shouted,
Get him to his feet.
I used the distraction to sneak out of the tent. I darted towards the stone structure that Dad and I were supposed to use as a hideout. I opened my hand. "Thanks, Dad." In it was Dad's medallion, the key to open the door of the structure. I heard loud, angry voices behind me, but I zoned them out. I needed to get to the hideaway, or I'd be done for. I took the steps 2 at a time, and the first explosion rang out just as I opened the door. I quickly closed it behind me and locked it. The structure was built like a fortress, 1 way in, 1 way out. It was equipped with security cameras, a generator, and enough food to feed an army. It was cozy and had all the necessary utilities and comforts of a small cottage. I even found a wooden crate with arms and ammunition. My mind ran constantly to my father, and I wondered what he would do in a situation like this. 2 weeks passed, and I hoped that the men would have given up. But boy, was I wrong. Every night, as I looked at the camera, the men looked for a way into the stone structure, but they couldn't get in. I had to make a choice. I could stay trapped in the stone structure, or I could surrender. One morning, I stood in front of the door with the medallion, and I whispered, "Sorry, Dad," as I opened the door. As soon as I stepped out, I closed the door and destroyed the medallion under my feet. It didn't take long before I was grabbed, but this time, I didn't get tied up in a tent. I was taken to a small wooden hut. The woman walked in with a long white dress.
It's nice to see you. Your wedding will be taking place shortly.
"Where's my father?" I asked with a cracked voice. The woman exited the hut without another word. I got dressed and waited.
Why so glum? Today is your wedding day.
The woman exclaimed when she yanked open the tent flaps. She was dressed in a long red dress.
Let's go.
I followed the woman to a larger, elegantly decorated hut. Inside were a few men dressed in suits chatting and drinking. There was a videographer, a photographer, and on one side was a 3-tier wedding cake.
Ah, there she is, my beautiful bride.
An older-looking gentleman with thinning hair and yellow crooked teeth greeted me. I grimaced, but allowed him to take my hand.
Pastor, my bride is here. Shall we begin?
The pastor nodded to me, then to the gentleman. As the pastor performed the ceremony, I felt numb. I went through the motion of saying I do and signing the marriage certificate. I didn't even struggle when he pulled me in for a kiss when the pastor professed us to be husband and wife. During the reception, the woman in the red dress never took her eyes off me. I observed as she refilled the groom's glass as soon as it was empty. After about an hour, the groom knocked his glass.
It's time to make a speech and cut the cake. Marissa, my dear, bring the special pitcher.
The woman in the red dress nodded and left the room. A few minutes later, she returned with a crystal mug that had a red beverage in it. She poured 2 glasses and handed one to each of us. Then she did something strange. She came and stood by my side. The groom held my hand as he gave his speech. The men around him laughed and cheered. He then turned to me.
To us, my dear.
I watched as he raised his glass to his lips and gulped the beverage down. Just as I was about to do the same, Marissa held my hand down with the glass and then began to cheer and hoot with the others. Suddenly, The groom grabbed his chest and fell to the ground. The men and Marissa stared at him with disgust. Some of the men even spat on him. As soon as the man stopped twitching, the men bagged the groom and walked outside with him. What in the world just happened? I looked at Marissa wide-eyed.
Hi there.
I spun around and screamed, "Dad!" I ran and threw my arms around him and cried, but I don't understand. Dad explained that he and Marissa had been dating for over a year. They both wanted to get out of the game and settle down, but Marissa's father, the old man who married me, wanted her to take over his criminal activities. She and Dad created this entire scheme to silently get rid of him away from the media. So, all this was a scam? I looked between Dad and Marissa. They both nodded. And the both of you are vowing to stay clean from now on? They both nodded. I guess this was one scam that worked out in the end. Dad and Marissa got married that day, and since my husband died, I inherited an extensive amount of cash and estates that I shared between Dad and Marissa. Every so often, Dad, Marissa, and I go to visit the tiny island. The experience was crazy, but it also created a stronger bond between Dad and I, don't you think?
I remember the first time I saw her as though it was yesterday. It was a Saturday afternoon and I was skating at our local ice rink, as I did every Saturday. My passion was ice skating. I'd been skating since I was 5 years old and I loved it. As I zipped around performing twists and turns like a pro, I suddenly noticed a girl stepping onto the ice. I stopped at the side and watched her as she glided around on the ice. I'd never seen anyone so beautiful in all of my life. To say she took my breath away was an understatement. I knew there and then that she was the girl for me. It was literally love at first sight. Do you find that a bit surprising? Well, that's nothing compared to what you'll see at the end of this video. As she came around the corner on the ice and was headed towards me, I gave her a beaming smile. Nice skating, you're really good.
Thank you.
I was hoping that she would stop and have a chat with me, but instead she just skated off in the opposite direction. I tried to catch her eye for the rest of the session, but she was either oblivious to me or playing hard to get. I couldn't work out which it was. When the attendant announced that it was time to leave the rink, I followed her outside. Hey, do you fancy getting a hot chocolate or something?
Oh, sorry. No, I have to go.
I tried to hide my disappointment. Okay, maybe another time. I watched as she walked off down the street. What if I never see her again? I couldn't believe that I had met the girl of my dreams and I hadn't even gotten her name, never mind her number. I could have kicked myself. All I could hope was she might be at the ice rink again the following weekend. But unfortunately, she wasn't there. I felt so miserable that I felt sick inside. For the first time in years, I didn't enjoy my afternoon skating. As I walked home from the rink, I began to think of a plan. Somehow, I had to find out who the mystery girl was. I just had some weird feeling inside that we were meant to be together. Call it a sixth sense or something, I don't know, but I was determined not to let this chance slip away from me. So as soon as I got home, I started calling around all of my friends, trying to find out who she was. After hitting blank wall after blank wall, I finally called my friend Neil.
Hi, Chris. How's it going? What can I do for you?
I told Neil all about the girl I had seen, what she looked like, and that she was an amazing skater.
Yeah, I know her. Her name is Maddie. She's a friend of my cousin.
Seriously? Are you sure?
Yes, it's definitely her.
Oh my gosh, you have to introduce me to her.
Okay, calm down. Look, my cousin is having her birthday next Friday. I'm sure Maddie will be there. You can come if you want.
Thanks, I'll definitely come. Friday came and I spent hours deciding what to wear. I wanted to make sure I looked my best. I looked at myself in the mirror and smiled at my reflection. There's no way she'll be able to resist you. I went to Neil's house first and then we went together to the party. As soon as I walked into the room, I saw her. She was standing, chatting with a group of girls. Look, Neil, that's her over there.
Well, what are you waiting for then?
Wish me luck. I headed over to the group of girls and introduced myself. Hi, I'm Chris. Say, didn't I see you at the ice rink last week?
Oh, yeah, probably.
You're a pretty good skater.
Thank you.
We should go skating together sometime.
Oh, I don't know.
Come on, it'll be fun.
Yeah, well, I'll think about it. Anyway, we're just gonna go get a drink. See you around.
I was almost bursting with happiness as I went and found Neil. She said she'll think about it. That sounds promising, doesn't it?
I guess so. but you'll probably have to impress her a bit more if you want her to say yes.
I thought about what Neil had said and realized that he was probably right. Girls like Maddie weren't easy to get. You had to put in the hard work for them to notice you. So I spent the rest of the evening chatting to her at every opportunity. At first, she acted a little cool towards me, but by the end of the night, she was laughing at my silly jokes and seemed like she was enjoying my company. So what do you say then? Shall we go ice skating next Saturday?
Oh, I don't know. I'd better check my diary first.
Come on, you know you'll have fun. You do love skating, don't you?
Okay, I guess we could go skating together.
I felt like jumping up and down and screaming out loud to everyone that Maddie had agreed to go on a date with me. But instead, I kept my excitement inside and played it cool. Great, meet you there at 2 o'clock.
Sure.
I could hardly wait for the following Saturday. The rest of the week seemed to drag by, but eventually Saturday came and I took my skates and went to the ice rink. When I got there, she was nowhere to be seen. I started skating around the rink. What if she doesn't turn up? But then I saw her walking into the rink. She gave me a smile and waved. Yes, she's here. She came onto the rink and skated over to me.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Maddie. Come on, let's skate. I grabbed hold of Maddie's hand and we started skating around the rink together. Now, you might think this sounds corny, but it was honestly as though we were made for each other. We skated around without missing a step. You know, we are really good together. We should enter some competitions.
I know, we just seem to click together, don't we?
So, shall we do it? Maddie thought for a few seconds before finally replying.
Why not? What do we got to lose?
It's a deal then. But I didn't just want Maddie as a skating partner. I wanted her as a girlfriend. I knew that if I wasn't careful, I could soon end up in the friend zone. Would you like to go watch a movie tomorrow?
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Okay, great. Maybe we can get a pizza or something afterwards too.
Sure, sounds good.
And that's how it all began. Before long, I was seeing Maddie almost every day. I was madly in love with her, and I was pretty sure she felt the same way about me. All of our friends commented on how well suited we were. I was so happy. I had the girl of my dreams. She was all I had ever hoped for. It was a few weeks after we started dating really seriously that I brought up the subject of us competing together again. So seriously, what do you think? We are so good together. I'm sure we would do well in competitions.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. And that way we can spend all of our time together. When we're not entering competitions, we'll be practicing at the ice rink. It sounds good to me.
So from that moment on, we started entering every competition we could. And you won't believe it, but we won everything. We started off with just local competitions, but then eventually we started going national. It was amazing. We were brilliant together. I thought nothing could ever go wrong. But unfortunately, it did. It was a few days before the biggest ice skating partner tournament in the world when I suddenly began to feel sick. I can't believe it. I feel terrible. There's no way I'll be able to compete.
Don't worry, I have something that will help you.
What is it?
Here, just take this pill and it'll make you feel better.
So I took the pill, and surprisingly, it did begin to feel better. You were right. I think I'll be able to compete now. So we entered the competition, and even though I still didn't feel 100%, I managed to perform. I'll admit, it wasn't my best performance, but miraculously, the other competitors performed worse than me. So by default, Maddie and I still won. We managed to win a lot of money from taking part in all of those competitions, and I should have been happy. But something was playing on my mind. I hadn't been doing very well in school, and I had a big exam coming up that I was pretty worried about. Maddie, I just don't know how I'm going to get through the test. I haven't had any time to study. I just know I'm going to fail.
You're worrying too much. I'm sure you'll be fine. Just try not to overthink it.
I guess you're right. But the night before the test, I started getting really anxious. That's when I saw the bottle of pills on my bedside table. What if one of Maddie's pills will help? It made me feel better last time I took one. Maybe it'll help now. I decided that I would take a pill. The next day, I took the test. I couldn't believe it when the teacher told the class the results.
Congratulations to Chris, the highest mark in the class. 100% correct.
I looked at the teacher in amazement. How did I manage that? Could it really have been the pill? After that, I started taking the pills whenever I had a competition or any kind of test. Each and every time, it helped. I can't believe it. This pill really makes me invincible. I started relying on the pills until I got to the stage where I thought I could do anything if I had taken a pill. That's when I saw the competition in our local newspaper. They were asking people to compete by performing a major stunt, and the winner would get $1 million. I'm going to enter, Maddie.
But what stunt can you do?
I don't know, but I'll think of something. Maybe I could ride a motorbike through a burning fire ring or something.
But that's crazy. You can't do that.
I can if I take a pill. Maddie looked at me in confusion.
What are you talking about? What pill?
Do you remember the pill that you gave me when I was feeling sick before our competition?
Yes?
Well, I kept the bottle and I've been taking the pills before every competition or test. They've made me invincible. I can do anything and I'll never fail.
But Chris, that isn't true.
Of course it is. How else can you explain how I did so well? I was so sick before our ice skating competition and we still managed to win.
Oh dear. There's something I have to tell you.
What?
That pill I gave you? It was just a placebo. It didn't have anything in it to make you invincible. I just thought that if you were convinced that the pill would make you better, then you would feel better.
So how did I manage to do so well?
It wasn't that you did so well, it was that our competitors did so badly.
That's impossible.
No, it isn't. You see, I snuck into the changing rooms before the competition and rubbed sandpaper over the blades of our competitors' skates. Because their blades were so blunt, they couldn't skate well. That's the reason we won.
Okay, but how do you explain how I managed to get 100% in my exam? I did that all by myself.
No, Chris, you didn't.
What do you mean?
That was me as well.
But how?
I hacked into the school computer and I changed all of your answers to the correct answers.
I was in absolute shock. I couldn't believe what she was telling me. What about the other competitions? We won everything.
Each time, I managed to find a way to rig it so that we were the winners.
So it really wasn't anything to do with the pill? It didn't make me invincible?
No.
How could you do this? I don't want to win competitions and ace on tests through cheating. You really have no idea what kind of a person I am, do you?
Please don't say that, Chris. I only did it to make you happy.
Well, you haven't made me happy. In fact, you've made me really angry.
I'm sorry. Please, forgive me.
I'm sorry, Maddie. It's over.
No.
I don't want anything more to do with you. You're not the girl I thought you were. I realized then that I'd been blinded by love. I hadn't really found out what kind of a girl Maddie was. I had just been swayed by how beautiful she was. But now I realized that it wasn't beauty that mattered. The important thing was a person's character, and Maddie had just shown me that she didn't have a very nice character at all. I decided that I was going to throw the bottle of pills away. I didn't need some pill to make me invincible. If I want to win and do well with my life, then I will do it through my own hard work.